Call the Finance Committee meeting to order. The date is the 16th of January. The time is 3:02. With us today, we have Alderman Tolliver, Alderman Bade, Alderman Warman, Alderman Bug, and myself, Alderman Franco. First item is 24-0996, approval of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held on December 12, 2024.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Alderwoman Bade, second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Madam Clerk, anybody from the public wishing to speak?
No, we do not.
Okay. Next item is 25-0023, an ordinance amending various sections of Division 2V2 of Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to purchases.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jessica Price with the Purchasing Division, and this was a walk-on last week at RAP. You guys approved a resolution for us to do an e-procurement system, and these are some ordinance changes for us to be able to do that. It will be how a bid is opened electronically now, accepting electronic signatures through our website, and removing our publication process in the Beacon News. Alderman Bug, you had asked about only putting advertisements online through the Beacon. We did contact them and they said, no, it's only paper and online. So we do think that using the system will get us the majority of bidders. We don't think that people are using the Beacon to find bids at this time, and it will save us about $30,000 a year. So any questions you have?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I do have a question. So we're not going to use the Beacon at all? It's not in addition to?
Correct, but we're still leaving it as a choice because some like IEPA bids or IDOT bids may have to be opened publicly.
All right, so we're going to pick
The
which ones.
majority.
The ones that are mandated to go there, we do. The ones that aren't, we won't.
Correct, the majority will go through the e-procurement system.
All right. Any other questions or comments? We do have a motion by Alderman Warman and a second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item is 25-0029, a resolution authorizing the city to accept a grant award of $39,981 from the Department of Homeland Security for the fiscal year 2023 Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program to update existing building codes and handbooks to help reduce potential losses to buildings and contents due to floods, tornado winds, and other natural disasters.
Correct. Good afternoon, everybody. Josh Ream, Director of Development Services. I have with me.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mia Joyce. I'm an emergency management specialist with the Emergency Management Agency.
So we're just going to do a quick presentation, going over everything with the BRIC grant and kind of what we're looking at here.
So a little bit of background in case you need a refresher or just a little bit of that background to fill you in. BRIC stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, and it's administered by FEMA. It was a program that was started in fiscal year 2020. There are obviously a number of key goals of BRIC, but two of them that are applicable to this project are to support local governments as they work to reduce their hazard risk and support infrastructure improvement projects.
So the purpose of our specific application of this is we're looking to help finance the undertaking of a new code adoption cycle. We're already in the process of this kind of in the background amongst staff, and then also starting with our committees that we pull in from the community to overgo code adoption changes. So we're going to be looking to jump all the way to the 2024 International Code Council series of books. We're presently on the 2015 codes and reference standards. So our hope is to use these funds from the BRIC grant to offset the cost of all the purchase we have to have, because we've got to get books for all staff, public, and things like that, and we'll go over specifics of that later. We're also hoping to use the funds to train staff, because usually as we do part of this process, and once we've got the adoption set up, we end up going to both online, in-person seminar things to cover that. And then we're also hoping that, as you would imagine, going to newer code cycles, fire protection things are better, our structural standards are better. We're using the latest and greatest construction methods, And so hopefully responses to disasters, whether they be fires, tornadoes, floods, the new buildings and remodels we're doing are in better position to withstand those and then also recover from them after the fact. So it helps AMEA kind of reduce some of their workload there.
And a little bit on the project importance, Josh kind of touched on it a little bit just now, but it obviously, adopting these codes maintains the city of Aurora as a healthy and safe city in which to live and work. Second, we've got that it promotes resiliency before, during, and after disasters and emergencies by making our buildings a little bit more resilient. And adopting the building codes also accomplishes a goal outlined in the 2023 Kane County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, which is a really great benefit to the city.
So kind of on some of the overall grant details, as Mia addressed earlier, this is through Homeland Security and Illinois Emergency Management. The grant total is $39,981, and then the city of Aurora has to contribute an additional $13,327 of non-federal funds. What's great about that is DS Development Services already has money in the budget you approved for 25 for code books, seminars, training, things like that. So we would be using the budgetary money we already have in place to account for that $13,000. And we do have an excess of that already budgeted for it. As part of the program, Mia is going to be doing quarterly reports, getting information from myself and other people contributing to the program so that we can get this reported out. Time frame, we have to start our projects within 30 days of approval. That isn't a problem. We already have POs set up with ICC where we purchased the books from. We have things available for training and stuff already in place. And we do have until September 26th of 27 to spend these funds. I can tell you there's no problem with that whatsoever. They will be gone. Deliverables on the process, kind of the whole list of 8 that we secured with it. You can see some of them we are already in process for, and that's everything from coming to you guys to get grant approval. Also updating our code standards was part of it. Again, as I said earlier, our city staff has already undergone a complete review of all the code books that we adopt, and then also their transitions from 18 to 21 to 24, so we can start presenting them and eventually get them up to council for approval for all those ordinance adoptions. And then we're going to have already started some of the stuff on the website to announce this to the development community. And then as we get this money and we start our purchases, we'll complete most of the rest of this. And then anything else is kind of that reporting and everything like that. Just so you guys have a rough idea on purchases, numbers, and things like that, so you know where the money is going. Just on the code books alone, we buy full sets for all of the BP staff. So 13 inspectors, 3 plant examiners, and 3 managers. Those full sets of books run about $1,200 a piece, even at our discounted rate. And then we have to purchase, again, some for our library, because if public comes in, they have to have ready access to them. Then our property standards division has another 16 inspectors and 2 managers. We tend to get about 3 to 5 books per them. Again, at 100 per, gives you that 32,000. On the right-hand side, there's a variety of places we go to training, ICC, the BOCA, BFCA, and again, training can range in a pretty wide variety depending if we're talking like a 2-hour online seminar or an all-day in-person one. But usually by the time we send out everybody to get some training and everything like that, about 23,400 there, just doing some rough math. And then any of the comparison books, and what these usually are is they will show us, and it's something we make available for the public as well. Here was everything that changed in, say, the 2024 code. Here's what it was in the 21, and they kind of go through an analysis. So it's easy to see kind of the reason for the change and what the actual occurrence was. It just makes kind of that adoption process a little bit simpler for everybody. I think that's everything me and I have, but happy to do any questions or discuss anything with it.
So we would be doing this if we didn't get the grant anyway, right?
Yes.
And it's just nice that we're getting, because we're
Yes,
gonna
it's
do that
just
anyway.
nice that we're
Okay.
getting a grant, because usually we're only buying like books in part, and I'm having more staff share or moving a copy around the office, with the grant, we'll be able to more fully staff out, and then we buy them year after year after year. This way, I'm gonna be able to get it done basically all in one chunk and be done with it and not have to worry about filling in over time. It's just a more efficient way to go through the process, and it also provides us more ability for training.
So we're getting, between our 13 we put in and their 39-ish, we're at 53,308, and the numbers here show 56,800. So we're putting in a little bit more, just to make sure, but it's not a whole lot more.
No, yeah, not a whole lot more. Before, because obviously you guys know the budget cycle, we started planning for our 25 budget like right at the first quarter of 24, and we weren't through this process. We didn't know whether or not we were going to get the grant, so we had already factored in funds to help with this process, and then this will just allow us to do more training, buy additional source material and stuff that we don't always use, but is nice to have on hand, or things that we would buy in 26 budget or 27 budget now.
So the 56.8 should cover what we feel we need to get through this process?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right, so that's pretty much it, okay.
Yep.
All right, any other questions? We have a motion to approve by Alderman Warman, second by Alderwoman Bade. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 25-0041, discussion on allocation of aldermanic funds. So, just to recap for those that aren't on the RAP and the Finance Committee. So at the RAP Committee last time, we had talked about amending some of the aldermanic spending procedures. And really from what we had done earlier that we had in writing basically a year ago to now, we came up with basically 3 new components. Two components are changing the title of the capital funds, which would be a RAP procedure, putting other things under that umbrella, which would be a RAP procedure, and changing the 2/3, 1/3 split to a 50-50 split, which is a Finance Committee procedure. So what we'll be addressing today, and I think it should be pretty simple, is moving forward to have that 50-50 instead of 1/3, 2/3 put into the ordinance, which we will basically bring to everybody at COW next week. With the RAP committee before that, they will address the other 2 components. So when we go to COW, we'll have this from Finance, the 2 components from RAP, and we'll take those to COW, those 3 components like that. So the discussion is, do we feel it is warranted to go from a 1/3, 2/3 split between capital and non-capital, as it stands right now, to a 50-50 split? I will open up the floor, but I think it's a great idea. So anybody else have any comments or questions about that? I would,
I mean, I think it's a good idea. It just gives us more flexibility, a lot more wiggle room. I think we've all been frustrated with the way that it is right now. You guys way longer than me, but still, nonetheless, I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate the work that was done with both the committees and getting this to where it is right now.
okay, thank you.
And I do have a couple comments. A couple things that I don't know if it'll be here on Finance or something here on RAP, and I talked to both Attorney Veenstra and Rich Jacobs about if we see, for instance, shred events, or done, 5 wards, let's say, do shred events, if it might make sense to put something like that out to bid with one of our vendors. So if, we can maybe get a better price on shred events or on, ward cleanups and what have you, and even so far as mailers, if we could get some sort of better pricing if there's going to be multiple uses on it. So, I mean, as far as how that's going to be handled, I'm not sure. I thought maybe something tiered, but that's something that I want to bring forward as well. Second thing I wanted to do is, I think since it seems like we've been talking about this for years now, but one of the things that I wanted to bring forward as well is I think that with the transparency that we have available now through our websites, Your Voice and what have you, I still think that this should be something that's readily published on a monthly basis for our folks could just go to our website and see what we spend on a monthly basis with our ward funds, whether it's a bouncy house, a mailer, or what have you. I think the process now is a FOIA and kind of handle it that way. I thought if there's a way to kind of streamline that to where it's, I don't know if it's monthly or quarterly or something like that, but I just think that should be readily available for folks to be able to see what we spend our money on.
Well, you know, that's, I'm just looking over there because I didn't know if we wanted to talk to Chris Minnick or Alex Alexandria about that. But what we do have is on our large bills list, all our spending from the different things. I'm just wondering if we could take that, like a cut and paste thing, and put it somewhere, because basically that tells you the story.
Yeah.
500 for this, 200 for that. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea. How we go about it would be, you know, something that we would let the experts deal with over here.
Alex Alexandru, Chief Management Officer.
Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer.
So I think from past discussions about ward funds and all of that, I think so long, first of all, I have no problem making arrangements to publicize, you know, it's public record, what the ward fund accounts show every month. I could work with Chris and we could figure out, put it on our website or whatever. But I think generally speaking, I think you all know my feelings on encumbering funds and not spending them. We make that a point to our staff every year, all year round. We're saying don't budget something that realistically you're not gonna spend money on, because that's encumbering funds that takes it away from some other use. So you all are familiar with what the balances are. You know, there are extenuating circumstances often and explanations, but there are also opportunities given every year, and some aldermen take advantage of it, others do not. We have newer aldermen, veteran aldermen. The bottom line is the staff will provide whatever information you all need, whether it's capital projects, non-capital projects, to get you comfortable to make your decisions, because you have the discretion to spend your ward funds. So I'm in favor of anything that helps spend these ward funds for the betterment of your individual wards and the city as a whole.
And I would note that the ward fund expenditures are listed on the bills list that comes to City Council every 2 weeks. So there is an itemization, at least by payee. I don't know that it breaks it down by individual alderman as to what each individual alderman spends, but at least collectively in the aggregate, you would be able to see if two individual alder people contributed to the same event, it would be listed as a total and not necessarily with each individual alderperson, but there is at least a description and an amount of the types of expenditures that are being approved and going through.
Well, yeah, so in the large bills list, if you just took that, when it says ward this, ward that,
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're talking about?
I want to take it, a step further, honestly. Like, I reach out to my aldermanic aide, and he has a spreadsheet, I don't know if that'll work or not, but a spreadsheet saying, I started out with 25,000 or 20,000, and then I spent 2,000 here for this, that. It's literally just a spreadsheet or something like that that itemizes it. So I just want to make it simple for people to see. Large
Yeah.
bill lists make sense to me and everybody probably sitting here, but like you said, whenever there's something
Exactly.
dual, and it has the other 3 pages of stuff that we paid out for, I'm looking for something even a little more simple than that, and I think we should list out there, you know, Ward 11 has, you know, 300,000, you know, and this is, you know, I just think it all should be public out there.
And if you recall, we added that to one of the agenda items
Yeah.
towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I don't recall if that had the alderman at large allocation on there. We might have to add that to show that in the aggregate and as it goes. And if I remember, it was broken up already
By ward.
by
and
ward.
by
So we could certainly tweak it and then
Yeah.
send that around to the alder persons, and if it's acceptable, we can put it on the website or
And like I
however you
said,
want us to.
I don't know what the process is or what we can put out there, but I literally think it should be on our personal websites that they have access through, that your voice, you know, that we can, you know, field questions from.
Yeah, I see no reason why you
Yeah.
can't put it on your own
Yeah.
websites as well.
But I mean, I just, like I said, I think that should be something that should be a click away versus, and again, large bills make sense.
Yeah.
But I just think it should be cleaned up a little bit
Yeah.
as well too, so
It,
those.
it could be a little more
Yeah.
clear. You're right.
And then, like I said, if there's some sort of bidding process, if we could do that, I think, and I don't know if that'll sharpen the price up at all, or if we already, you know, have something contractually set up, but I think that's something that we should look into.
I'm
as
sorry,
well.
did you say bidding?
For like ward cleanups, for something
gotcha.
with Lake
Yeah.
Shore or whoever we use, or for the shred events, if they give us better pricing, if we do 4-year, this or that or something, so. Same with printing, if we're doing 8 mailers a year, if
I
somebody
mean,
could.
that's something we could certainly talk to Rich about.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with him about it as well,
purchasing
too, so, yeah. And he was
and
gonna
figure
do
that
a
out.
little legwork on that as well, too, so, but, yeah, if we get a better rate, then that'd be great. If it's, we're already getting a sharp rate, then so be it, so, but, thank you, Chairman.
Alderman Bug?
Yeah, so a couple of things, those things are covered already. So so say for a clean up, where they're gonna get trucks, Groot at the beginning of the year gives us a set price, they're set low price, and it is afforded to the city, it's also afforded to the alderman. So I do a clean up the streets, I get the dumpster price that's set at the beginning of the year. I don't have to go searching all over for the price of a dumpster. It's set, and that number comes over probably through your office eventually. And yeah, so we don't have to go searching for a good price on a dumpster. We know what it is ahead of time. Shred's a little bit different. Yeah, they're a little bit different. There's not, one set vendor. So that's definitely something to look into. It doesn't reach the threshold of going out to bid through Ms. Coulter, but our newsletters do. So in the beginning, way back when we started doing newsletters, it was under 5,000. Now, as you know, you do a newsletter, it's way over 5,000. So the recent ones have gone out to bid individually, not collectively. I can speak for my own. I had one vendor who, was chosen above 5,000. They did a really poor job, so I wasn't looking to go back to them the next year. So be that as it may, but Ms. Coulter handled that. It's over 5,000. It's going out anyway, so we could possibly, if we know ahead of time, package them all and see what kind of price we get.
So that would appear whenever we could save money like that, and that's a good idea, we would probably leave that to Rich in the Alderman's office in purchasing. This other thing about the transparency, I don't think this is an ordinance type of thing. I think if it's information that everybody should have available, we could just put it on there just by saying, let's just do it. I don't think, and is legal here? Let's bring them all on. Get the think tank going here. I don't know that there has to be any legal process, any ordinance process. It's just a matter of taking the information that we already have. That should be available to the community and formatting it and where we're going to put it. Patrick, would you think that's correct? I mean, we have information that the public should have. They don't have to FOIA it, I don't believe, because we already have it on our list, in our meeting agenda, the large bills list. So that type of information, putting on a different platform, your voice page or whatever that may be, that should not be a legal technicality. We should just be able to do that. Is that correct?
Patrick Collins, Assistant Corporation Counsel. Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we can look into all that. So there's that.
Thank you.
Separate from that then is the, again, the 50-50 split on ward funds for the two different types of expenditures. Does anybody have any concerns about that? And again, I'll go to the history of it. Basically, this is allowing us to formulate how we spend money based on historical spendings. We're kind of trying to mesh what makes it fair, what makes it reasonable, what makes it historical, so we know that we don't have to change the game too much because we do a pretty good job anyway, and the flexibility part. So I think that was pretty easy. Alderwoman Bay, do you have a comment?
I just had a question about the capital grant projects. So suppose I start a grant, I have enhancement grant project, but if I have a capital grant program, is it every year same amount, or we are saving that amount and it's building on that? So say this year I have $20,000 for a capital grant, and next year, is it added to the next year's 20,000, whatever is left over from this year, or it's 20,000 to start with every year for the capital project?
Right, so, so do you have a cap on your grant? Like, I have a cap on my grant, no more than 25,000.
Okay.
If I don't spend any of that 25,000, my grant program doesn't go to 50,000 next year. Is that what you're talking about? It stays at 25,000.
Okay.
Capital money is carried over anyway. So if you don't spend it, you get to carry it over. So that's, I mean, I'm not sure,
So
that's
if
how
the
I would
cap
do it.
is not defined, it is carried over. If cap is
That's
defined,
capital,
it
yeah, sure.
stays.
But every grant program, because we're trying to be as flexible as we can, every grant program will be looked at as we do every year.
Yes.
And if we say it's a component of infrastructure capital, whatever the titles we're gonna use, then it goes into the capital bucket, period, and you're good for the whole year. Every time somebody applies for something, you don't have to come back to us and say, is it a capital thing? It is, because we granted. Now, if we see there's no components in there of capital at all, your grant's gonna go through all through the whole year as the other bucket, because we didn't formulate that. But once you're formulated at the beginning of the year, once you're approved at the beginning of the year, you're good for the whole year. And then the next year, you just do it again, just to make sure that it falls into the right category.
Okay.
Okay.
That was the only question.
All right, so since
Yeah.
this was, I'm sorry, Alderman Bug, you want
Yeah,
to?
one other thing. Yeah, of course, I don't have a issue with the 50/50, since I proposed it. Although the last portion and what we got out of RAP, I think I got the incorrect number. Crystal helped me out with that, and we changed it. But I don't want to speak for the Alderman at large. I've never been an Alderman at large, and I've never spent a dime of Alderman at large money. So I want to make sure, first of all, what we down here is okay with the 2 Aldermen at large. And I think we need to discuss, because we've discussed it before, and we don't want to go back, keep going back and forth. So we've talked about that this amount should increase a little bit. So if we're going to have that discussion, we should have it now. We shouldn't wait, hold off, have it later. So right now, it's set at $40,000 to be split between the 2 Aldermen at large. So I'll leave that to you, and if Alderman Lesh wants to chime in as COW or whatever, but your comments.
I'll speak for myself now. I don't think, I would rather wait till we decide as a council to do for everybody. And if there's gonna be an increase, I think it not only should be Alderman at large, but I think it should be the ward Alderman as well too. So I'm again, speaking for myself, fine with where it's at right now, so. And I can get with Leish and see if he wants to, him and I talk a little bit, and if he wants to speak at COW, okay, but I'm comfortable with 40,000, 20,000, or, 20,000 each
For now.
split, for now. Like I said, until we, other factors that Alex here had talked about, until all that stuff's resolved, I think it should be all done together, so.
Mr. Alexandru?
I just want to clarify, would this be a 2025 action or a 2026? Because 2 things, if it's 2025, it would require a budget amendment. Otherwise, we do begin, as much as this pains me, we begin our 26 budget process very soon, and so we could factor that in. But I think, to what we discussed last time, we supplied a balanced budget. We would have to go back and figure out where this additional funds would come from.
Again, my personal choice is to, if it happens in 2026, wait until then. I don't personally see a need for a budget amendment for 2025 for Alderman Leish or myself, but I'd let him speak for himself, so.
No, there's no change, right? It's 40 now, right?
Yeah, no change, yes.
Yeah, there's no change.
No
Yeah.
change.
That's
For
what I'm-
right now.
Yeah.
But you're right. If we were going to, how
Going to
would we
make a
do
change,
that?
yeah.
Either one budget for 2026 or
Yeah,
2025, do a
there's-
budget amendment.
There's no monetary change.
Right, but right now, we're good.
Just wanted to clarify.
Right, no, you're right, absolutely. That's good that you brought that up, because
I'm
that's,
the junior gatekeeper for finance.
well, just stay close. We may need you again.
We will need you again.
And then I guess, I hate to put my aide on the spot, but we have an aide that's been here for a while. Have we ever had any concerns from any past aldermen at large about not having significant funds, and then maybe a reason for it if they did not?
No.
Okay, good. Because a lot of these things we do, we have to remember, this is historical perspective. We try to do that, if we did something last year and it worked, why are we gonna reinvent the wheel? So if there's not been a lot of clamor about it, then maybe something we don't have to address quite yet. And you feel pretty good with
I'll
it.
say this, I'm good with it for 2025, and like I said, 2026 is a whole nother discussion, but I think as of now, I think we're okay, so.
Well, and we do know, and we've talked about this too, that when the new casino gets up and running and generates the revenue that we think it's going to generate, which will be a lot more, then we think that maybe all of our budgets will be increased somewhat depending on how they do. So that's in the offing anyway. Okay. then would it be fair to say that this committee feels very comfortable with going to 50-50? When we talk to RAP, we'll clean up the other portions of that, and we'll bring a package to COW with these three components that we talked about. Would that be a fair assessment?
I agree, yes.
Okay, good. Then we'll do that. And then, Alderman Bug, did you have something else you wanted to walk on today, or?
Yes.
Okay,
Let's do that now.
sure.
All right. This is, as we all have noticed, we're trying to bring the alderman position up to the current century. So we're doing this piecemeal, but we took a look at both the mileage for the alderman and the phone allowance, our two allowances. And I commend our chief of staff for what they've done in the past, both Sandy and Mr. Jacobs, doing acrobatic hoops to try and stretch our mileage allowance. The rate for, the federal rate this year just went up another 3 cents, so it's 70 cents a mile. However, we have not moved our cap. Well, we moved it one time in the last maybe 20 some odd years. So basically, our mileage allowance now is $42 a month, which is about, under the federal rate, it's about 60 miles a month, or 2 miles a day. To go to one ribbon cutting, and I panned it out. Carl came to one of mine in Ward 9. We cut a ribbon at the old Tennis Academy a number of years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
To go to Ward 5 to Ward 9
a long
twice in a month, that would be your whole mileage spent
I had to stop for gas twice.
for the month. For the month. So we really need to bring this up to really current times. This is it's almost, not laughable, but it is. We just have not moved this number
Okay.
at all. Rich did an excellent job. He's the one who moved it from, used to be $300 a year. It's been moved to $500, but still. So I put down there the comparison. Of course, the mayor has a vehicle allowance that, our mileage is, that's our vehicle allowance. The mayor's vehicle allowance is $534 a month. Ours is $500 a year. So it's just way, way, way out of whack. Part of the reason it's been able to be stretched so far is because not as many aldermen took mileage. Is Rich coming up? So a number of aldermen in the past did not take mileage. And that's your right. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to. Our illustrious colleague, Alderman O'Connor never took mileage in 36 years. So Sandy and I said, Rich, they were able to stretch that out. Now more aldermen, we have new aldermen on the council, more of them are taking mileage, which that's their right to take it. And now the money is not, we're catching up that we have not moved this number in a very, very long time. So we're just walking this on to discuss it.
Right.
We'll move it forward. The phone one, I just put it down there. Like I said, we should look at everything, not piecemeal this. The phone is at $100 a month. Some have their own phone, some don't. I don't know if the $100 a month has been an issue. I just wanted to have it there. There are aldermen who do the phone every month. I don't know if anybody has had a problem with $100 a month. Maybe Rich could speak to that in a couple weeks, but definitely the mileage is we need to definitely put something together to move that.
Well, it looks like we have a couple people that are waiting to chime into this, so either way you want to go with this?
Alex Alexander, Chief Management Officer. So I just, again, sort of piggybacking on my last comment, all of these would have obvious budget
Sure.
implications and would require a budget amendment. But just to clarify, Alderman Bug, the comparison to the mayor's car allowance, the code specifically calls for the mayor to be provided a vehicle. So
Oh, yes,
that
I know.
number that you're talking about is not necessarily for mileage, it's for payment of the lease that the mayor
I know.
gets.
Yeah, I understand.
And so, also, the mayor is considered a full-time employee of the city, whereas aldermen are part-time employees. Now, we could debate that semantically, but we're just going by what our form of government is and what's in our city code. So Chris and I ran some numbers, because, and we appreciate, there was some email traffic ahead of this so that we can at least run some numbers. And Chris, correct me if I get these wrong, but right now we have $6,000 allocated amongst the 12 alderpersons, including alderman at large. And the increase would mean it would go to 6,000, so it'd be a $66,000 budgetary impact, correct?
Well, if the intent was to go to a $6,000 a year allowance, yes.
So that would raise your mileage, 85.71 a year at 70 cents a mile per alderman. So that would be 700 miles a month per alderman of reimbursement.
Hey, well,
And then the phones.
Let me chime in. These numbers were just for comparison. No one was thinking we would go to, wow, 6,000, no.
Well, again, I'm just saying,
Yeah, oh,
you
no.
know, we just
We need
launched
to-
into our 2025 budget. I want to make sure, and the phones, the last thing was, it would be, if we switch, what would it be, $100 monthly flat for phones?
Well, yeah, I don't know that there's been a proposal actually floated yet.
Okay.
I mean, we made some suppositions, but I don't know that we've seen an official proposal yet, but we do have, and I apologize, I did not bring my notes, but I do believe we have about $12,000 to $14,000, if memory serves,
I think it's 12.
allocated for those phone allowances and also for phones that may be provided, et cetera. So,
Right,
and
and
laptops.
and we don't know if there is an issue there or not on phones. I don't,
Okay.
Let me have Alderman Warman chime in real quick. He had a question.
and this is actually probably a question for Chris. So mileage, my understanding is it's not from your house to the event. It has to be from like your office to
The
that,
way,
yeah.
yes, that's how we reimburse mileage is there's a normal commute reduction, a
Yeah.
deductible, if you will. So if it's 5-6 mile, let me use a concrete example. If it's 5 miles from your house to City Hall, and you're going to an event, you should deduct the round trip commute. So in that case, 10 miles from whatever mileage that you're submitting for reimbursement.
So using it as an example, and for Chairman Franco, let's say he's going from his house to an event in the Fifth Ward. I mean, technically, wouldn't he have to come to the office first and then go to the?
No, you would just mark it from the alderman's office here to wherever it's at.
Oh, okay. So you don't physically
So
have to
like
come
when
in.
I put mileage in, 25 years, I don't put in to go to a ribbon, if I'm going within the city of Aurora, I don't ask for mileage reimbursement.
Sure.
I only put in if I'm going outside of the city.
Springfield or
For
something
my
like that, yeah,
duties.
yeah.
But our policy with staff is you calculate, so if you're going to Chicago to drive, and you have to drive, you get paid not from your house, so you might live in Oswego, and then you don't get that, you get paid from City Hall to Chicago, round trip, plus tolls and all of that.
Okay, so that makes sense then, so.
I just asked Rich Jacob to come up here because I've been an alderman for almost 10 years, and I've been doing it wrong, apparently. So when I have a meeting, from an ETSB meeting in Naperville, the Naperville Police Department, I put my mileage from my house to there and back. I don't go from here to there, I do my house. So that's how I've been doing it. I'll take a slap on the wrist, but I thought that's how we're supposed to do it. So I brought Rich up here because I just want to clarify that because, if we're going to do it right, we got to start doing it right starting now. But I didn't know that was the way to go.
Correct. Rich Jacobs, Chief of Staff, Office of Alderman. We've been doing what you all have been doing since you all have been elected. Nothing in regards to reimbursement has been changed. It's open to obviously do this correctly, but for the longest time, up until last year, not many of you turned in mileage.
Okay.
It was not that big of an issue that was brought to us. We did make some corrections, I remember, on certain older people with some confusing aspects. But now that more of you are doing this, we can certainly get the correct information on where to calculate, which would make it easier when turning in this information.
Well, and I'm just wondering, I mean, I think we need to, this is quite mystifying to me, because if I go to an event in the Fifth Ward and it's a mile away, so I put a mile down back and forth. If I use City Hall or here, it's farther. I'm costing the city more money. I'm not actually driving that. So that's why I was kind of wondering about that, because that may be okay if I'm going east of here, but if I'm staying west in the Fifth Ward, why am I costing the city more money? Because this is my starting point, which is further away. So I don't know that that's a benefit for us. You know what I'm saying with that?
I can certainly have a further discussion
Sure,
with Chris and
Yeah,
A
you know,
about-
and if that is the policy, maybe we want to make it better for everybody. You know, that it might be cost savings if we do it the way I mentioned. Just because, you know, if we all stay in our wards, well, I'm going to go a mile from here, a mile from there. But if I do it from the alderman's office, it's 5 or 6 miles. I just cost the city money for mileage I didn't use. And I don't know that that would be appropriate though either. So I think maybe we should take a look at that then. I think we have our attorney wants to chime in too.
Patrick Hall, Assistant Corporation Counsel. These are IRS tax standards on how it works. So
Okay.
In the IRS code, if your normal commute from your home to the office, says you was 5 miles, so your round trip is 10 miles. You're going to an event that's from your house to somewhere else in the city, and it's 3 miles, and your round trip is 6, there's no reimbursement for that, because your normal commute would be 10 miles. If you're from your home going to the city of Chicago, and it's 20 miles there and 20 miles back, that's 40 miles, but your normal commute would be 10, that would only be 30 miles. Does that make sense?
It
Your
does make
normal
sense.
commuting miles is calculated the distance from your home to your place of employment, which would be here at the city.
Okay.
If
Now,
the event, wherever it is, if it goes from your home to anywhere else, the normal commuting miles are deducted.
and yet we don't get reimbursement for coming to a city council meeting, the mileage.
Correct.
This is why it's kind of screwy like that. This is your starting point, but you don't get mileage to your starting point, even if you come there every day. It's just kind of a strange thing. So
The
this
IRS
is
standard
right.
is because everyone commutes to their job.
Right, so, and that's okay, but I think because of this information that I was not aware of, that maybe we need to sit down and spell that out a little bit, because we may have been doing it inaccurately for a while.
Well, and you do technically have an office here.
Right?
In the Alderman, you all have an office, and this is why, for simplicity all these years, I just have always used City Hall forward.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it all's gonna wash out one way or another. But also, your commute back and forth from a legal workers' comp perspective, you're not covered if you are on your way to work or you're leaving work, unless you are doing some work-related thing on the way to work or going home at night. So while you all are not technically employees of the city, it's that same mindset that commute to and from work is sort of excluded. But once you hit your office here, you're on the clock again. You're not hourly employees, but on the clock, metaphorically speaking. You're working.
Right, so I would suggest if this appears to be a mandate from the IRS, and these are the rules and regulations, then maybe we need to sit down and re-educate everybody on how to do that. I mean, it's okay as long as we know, but I was not aware of that, not at all. And I don't know if anybody else was either. I was
Well,
just from my home.
Chris's department just issued, every year they issue around this time, the 2025 travel policy,
Yeah.
which has the section in there about mileage.
Okay,
So I would suggest maybe pulling that out, or Rich, I think you should have received it in your email, because I would rather stay away from employee handbook, because all the persons are not employees. But the travel policy reflects the IRS
right,
standard.
Yes.
So we should probably provide that.
yeah, okay.
And honestly, that's why I never submitted anything, because I always operated under these rules when it's,
Yeah.
in the private sector, that it just didn't make sense, or, to calculate and.
Yeah.
Then there was one more information piece that I think you wanted to share about, for discussion purposes, the implications tax-wise of vehicle stipend, all of
Yes.
that, all that fun stuff.
Yes. One thing that we haven't talked about was, we mentioned that there's a vehicle allowance that accrues to the mayor because of the statutory obligations that the city has. However, we haven't talked about whether or not we're going to continue on a documentation of mileage actually traveled for reimbursement, or whether we'd be looking to go to a flat type of a stipend or allowance for aldermen for those types of expenses. One thing that I would caution is that if you do go to a stipend, and the amount is just a flat dollar amount, for discussion purposes, let's just say $100 a month, that $100 then becomes taxable income and flows through on your W-2 and the information that you would need to submit with your federal tax return. Now, if you itemize and you keep documentation of the miles actually traveled, you can deduct it, but it would start out as taxable income if it's going to be a flat monthly allowance or stipend type of arrangement. And that would also go for a telephone or technology allowance as well. If it's not based on actual bills incurred and documented with support for the expenditures that you've made, and it's just a flat monthly amount, it would be taxable.
Would that change be something that would be a city council vote to legislate, that we wanted to make that change? I mean, if we said, we're good with how it is now, obviously following the IRS rules, but we're doing like, I travel this much, I get paid for that much only, I don't get a stipend. Change to a stipend format, would that be something we'd have to approve?
I would, yes,
I would think it would be probably,
yes, I
okay.
would think that would be a policy matter that would be a significant enough change that it should be voted on.
The only
But it's
thing that I would be
above,
worried
it's
about.
above and beyond the compensation ordinance for aldermen, correct? I think
I will have
the
to
compensation only talks about your pay, and I think the monthly, or the meeting stipend.
Right. So
So
the
all
detail.
these other things are outside of that.
Right, so then we could legislate
So I
that because
believe
it's
you
not,
can.
right, because it's not addressed, okay.
I believe
good.
you can.
Okay, good. All right, well, then I
Subject
think,
to budgetary implications.
always. You're talking to finance committee, we go to bed thinking that every night, too. So we should probably get on that a little bit, too. And then, I don't know if we need everybody up here, but this last thing up here, this was Alderman Bug brought up, internet allowance, I guess I'd have to ask Alderman Bug about that.
Oh,
So-
internet's under phone.
Oh, it's so.
It's together.
So what so I don't know what cost I have with an internet ever. I have my phone cost, and I have my pad here, which is you can get Wi-Fi anywhere. So I don't know what the cost would be. What cost do we incur with an internet? Phone, yes, but I don't know about the internet portion of that. You know what I'm saying?
In our, we are allowed phone, well, now you say, quote unquote, you say home phone.
Right, sure, right.
Nobody has home phone.
Right.
So your phone, cell phone, or your home internet, because we all have home offices. You are allowed up to, 50% or whatever. it is.
So
I don't know.
this, and I'm trying to just maybe squeeze money. This wouldn't allow us to not have the access for internet at home because I get free Wi-Fi on this. So you know what I'm saying? Like, why would I pay for internet at home when I could use this for free? That type of thing. So I don't know how that plays into it or not. Phone, obviously, you gotta pay for, but,
No, we get, the iPad's separate. That's city issue. That's just the given right now allowance is $100.
Okay.
It covers communications, phone,
Okay.
whatever.
so.
That's the
if-
cap.
So, and I guess I would have to talk to legal about this too, or maybe finance. So if we use our internet at home for any type of work purposes, we can expense that based on the verbiage, I guess?
I think we need to look at this because I think you have Wi-Fi already on your iPad.
Well, that's why I was
That we
wondering.
pay for, that the city is
Sure.
paying for.
Right.
It's covered.
So maybe we look into that too.
The things that we need to really look
Sure,
into,
sure.
if we're fully going to have this full
Right.
discussion,
Yeah.
is those of you who have a city cell phone, separate above and beyond your own personal cell phone. There are a number of you that, for what a number of reasons, don't want two phones. So out of my office budget, we pay for a portion of your personal phone for the city's work. Now, just to make sure we're all on the same page, those that are in those scenarios, those phones are FOIAble. Your personal phone is FOIAble for that. That's why we really recommend having your own separate phone. And it'll be easier to pay for because we need to have, and we're getting these messages from accounting, your entire telephone bill to turn in for reimbursement, not a copy of the cover sheet. They need to see the details because of all of this. And so I look forward to having this full discussion on these issues. But in terms of, I'm not sure why
Right.
we're paying for internet at home when your iPad has it.
Right. Well,
So can I-
yeah, so go ahead, Alderman Tolliver.
I was just gonna say, like, and not to cut anybody off, but I mean, I guess for me personally, because I don't turn in mileage, I mean, my phone works. If it doesn't, then I'll call somebody. So, like, some of this stuff, I don't know how many aldermen it actually applies to. So I would just recommend that if it's gonna come to some full vote or something like that, that the alder people who do these things just kind of have this conversation outside, bring it when it all kind of gets squared away, answer any questions, and then just kind of pass it along, because it just kind of seems like we're talking about a lot of ifs and this might be, and we don't know if this is affecting this, but it could be. So I just kind of feel like maybe we clean this up first, and then the ones that it does affect kind of move from that point on, because all of this is kind of like a moot point to some of us.
Well, yes, until an election comes up and you're no longer in that seat. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't know what's, you know, because there's a turnover rate. But I would suggest this, and there's a lot of good ideas. I would suggest we do some research on all this stuff. What's a mandate, what's not, what's discretionary. These are the mandates you gotta do. Here's the discretionary stuff, and because of that, you can go A or B. And then we know exactly what lane we're in. You know, we get that blueprint, because there's something in that IRS thing I wasn't aware of. That's apparently a mandate, so we gotta get that down. And then the discretionary stuff, whether one phone or your personal phone or another phone, here's your discretion. But if you go this way, this is what you have to do. And once we get that all down and in writing, I think, you know, all these questions will be answered. But we still have maybe some unanswered questions to do that. Alderwoman Bay?
Can we please go back to mileage? I
Okay.
am reading from the document that was sent to us today. Reimbursement for mileage. The provisions of resolution number R 8087, approved by City Council on March 18th, 1980, provides for an adjustment in the city's mileage reimbursement rate when the Internal Revenue Services adjusts the allowable mileage rate for federal income tax purposes. Under that resolution, the city's mileage reimbursement rate will be adjusted from 67 cents to 70 cents per mile, effective January 1st, 2025. Now, please note mileage should be calculated from attendees' residence or city hall to and from event, whichever is lesser distance.
Lesser
So it
distance.
is from home to event. This is
Well,
mentioned
you-
here.
or if it's lesser, but it says
Yeah.
if it's lesser distance.
Yeah.
So there's a
But
little
it
extra,
is
yeah, right, which it could be.
Start,
Right,
like
right.
I have events in 10th Ward, I have 20 events. If I start putting from City Hall to that event, it's, as you
more costly.
mentioned, it's going to be, so, but it does say from your residence to City Hall,
I-
so you didn't do anything
No,
wrong.
right, so
here.
well, I may have, because if I'm going east of here, this should be my starting point because it's less. So I was not doing that because I didn't know that. So there's the discretion there. Well, it's not really discretion. If it's lesser, you use it. If it's not, you don't. I stay in the 5th Ward, I use my house. I go to the neighborhood police department, I
Yeah.
use here. Now, but that
So
would
it
be
makes
some, yeah,
sense.
that makes
This is
sense,
from
right.
IRS.
Well, because
Yeah.
it's fiscally responsible doing that way. So that's a good thing. So
Yes.
these are the things that
already
we
there.
probably did not know until we read it right here. So we just need to clean that up, and I think we will. So if we can get on that a little bit, do some research, next time we come in, we'll talk about it and clean it up a little bit. Okay. All right, anything else today about this? It was a good discussion about this
Yes.
stuff, because
Motion
we
to
learned a
adjourn.
lot right now. All
Motion to
right.
adjourn.
Hearing nothing, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have motion to adjourn by Alderman Warman, second by Alderman Tolliver, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And we are adjourned at 3:57. Thank you.
I knew what it was.